don't forget ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to Stop Writing Alone. I once heard Seth Godin say that there's no such thing as talking block when asked to address the idea of writer's block. He said, I find it ridiculous, writer's block, because nobody ever talks about talking block. If you need to talk, you have something to say, you get it out there. Same thing with writing. And he was asked this question specifically because this is a man who blogs every single day without fail. And it's come to mind right now because as I'm sitting here working on this week's episode, I feel like I have a massive case of talker's block. And I want to call up Seth Godin and say, aha, it is here. But to his credit, he's absolutely right, because here I am talking to you anyway. And I'm talking to you about the situation I'm in. And the reason I'm doing that is because that is exactly how I get through writer's block. I was sitting there on my couch. I completely unplugged and I had walked away from my computer and was getting really frustrated. I said, "What? I don't understand. I always have my episodes like what I want to do." And then all of a sudden this week, it just felt like everything left my brain. And part of it, I'm going to tell you right now, because it may also address why you may struggle with writer's block, is that today, before getting to work, I took too much in. And I knew this was going to be an issue, but I just started to connect with friends, and they had questions about different things that I could help with. And sometimes it wasn't even that somebody reached out and asked for me specifically. I just saw a question. Oh, I know the answer to that. And this is the problem with going on social media before you need to do something. Or a lot of people complain about checking their email before getting their own work done, because you end up expending your energy on other people's to-do lists before even addressing your own. And so that's definitely what I did today. So my brain is in a state of overwork. And when I'm asking it now to show up, it's like, for reals? Enough. So definitely one thing that could be happening when you have writer's block as well. And I'm saying this because I don't really struggle with writer's block all that often, because when I get to a point in my writing where I don't know what to do next, I just write anyway. But I write without expectation, without plan, and it's just it's probably the kindest I am to myself ever. And just write whatever comes to your head right now and just keep going. And for most of the time, I'm usually writing about the fact that I don't know what happened to this story. I was writing about her going to school and she was finding the thing in the locker. And then she found it and she was supposed to talk to this guy about it. But now I don't know if I want her to talk to this guy or do something else. And then all of a sudden that something else is like, oh. And then I just stop, press enter, and get back to work. So the power of the free write is really what gets me out of any kind of writer's block. And one of the largest culprits for writer's block for me, or in this case, speaking block, or even many of my fears when I'm ready to take any kind of action, whether it's creative or social or what have you. I have discovered that one of the things that is most harmful in my life, this is going to sound ridiculous, are expectations. And I'm not even talking about other people's expectations of me. I have no control over what other people's expectations of me are, but my expectations. And this hit me a couple of years ago. I'll never forget the first day that I realized expectations were destroying me. And I had looked at the clock and I realized my husband was about to come home. And while I had done so much stuff in that, with my day while he was gone, I had expected to get so much more done. And I felt my heart sink when I saw the time. Because, once he comes home, then I'm going to hang out with him. I'm going to make dinner. All of the things that I sort of had planned to get done are, off the table till tomorrow. So I looked at the clock, and my heart sank. And it was, no controlling. It was, this automatic thing. And I was like, wait, what the hell? I did so much today. I got all these things done. Why do I feel bad? And then I thought back, well, the issue is that I wanted to do, whatever, the ridiculous to-do list that you write that's impossible, that I, for some reason, thought was going to be possible. And I didn't get it done, even though I got half of it done. And he walked in, and poor guy had to then engage in a conversation with me about expectations. He's like, what? I'm like, whoa, I just realized one of my big issues is my expectations. I put these expectations out there, and when I don't reach them, because half the time the expectations I'm creating for myself are impossible, I'm then getting depressed and beating myself up over this. And, what is that? And once I realized that in that moment, I started to look around at the other times that I was feeling not enough. And so I'd look at my writing and why haven't I finished this yet? And I thought I would be published by now. This book should be, whatever. I'm like, oh, there you go again with all your expectations of what you thought you would be up to by now. How about what have you done so far? And twisting that. And what happens is that once I then look at it and say, well, no, but what I did do is write a book. And then I rewrote a book and I workshopped it and everything. So I should be proud of that, and I should dive back in and look at it again. You see, that's the thing, because what was happening to me is that when I wasn't reaching expectations and feeling bad about it, that was paralyzing me. Again, sort of like a writer's block. Because then I was like, I shouldn't even be working on it because, whatever, I can't do anything right. Meanwhile, I had done so much great stuff, and I wasn't giving myself credit for it. So I feel like people who struggle with writer's block are consciously or unconsciously existing in some sort of expectation state of their story. And I've seen it. I've lived it too, where your brain is moving faster than your fingers can. And you're just you're living the emotions and the twists and turns of your story before you can get the words on the page. And so then you get to a point in the story that is detail-oriented or something that isn't in that big, broad, beautiful picture in your mind. And you're like, well, how do I get past this point? I need to, this doesn't sound as amazing as it feels. And that expectation of how good it should sound makes you stop and sit there until you think you're going to work and work and work until you get it to feel like that. And it's like, no, that's not the point. All of that happens, but with time, you need the words down first. You got to write through it. Bring your expectations back down. Get through the story. Like, I just want more words. I don't know, guys. I just feel like if you truly examine where your expectations are, from task to task and from project to project, if you're struggling, I would be really surprised if that wasn't at least one of the culprits. Because this is the big debate in the writing world when you ask people about, what is writer's block and how can we fix it? You'll get, many authors that'll come up with various activities you can do, or they'll say, just walk away, go for a walk, come back, rest, all different advice. There is a contingency of writers that will give advice. And then there's another contingency of writers that'll say, writer's block does not exist. So what is it? Like, it's this whole big mystery. So it really comes down to being usually about something else. And for me, it's in my writing, it's in my podcasting, it's in my home life, it's in all things. I find the paralyzing factor is typically expectations. And so what happened today when I sat down to create this episode, I had thoughts and expectations about what I wanted to talk about, and then it just didn't feel right. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. So I have nothing. That's the paralyzing thing. So I have nothing, and I'll speak about nothing. It's like a stubborn little child in my mind. So ridiculous. Just move aside, little expectation brat, and let me talk for a minute. Oh, well, anyway. I don't think I'm going to keep you too long with this, but I want you to examine your expectations. And if you're struggling with that, maybe you're cool with it. Maybe you're just happy. This is, what this is? This goes back to, what was this guy's name? Remember the guy that was on Oprah and he wrote the book, The Power of Now? Eckhart Tolle. Goes back to Eckhart Tolle and that whole, and we all talk about the mindfulness and the presence, being present, right? That's what expectations are. Expectations are like forcing you out of where you are and really recognizing all that you have accomplished in this here and now. So I want you right now to do this fabulous activity. Susie Taylor from Stop Writing Alone brought it to our attention in our group. It came out of the Kathy Heller book that we were all reading, and that is the 100 things I've already done. Even if you don't do 100, even if you do 50, I don't know, this is a very liberating exercise. Taking credit for the things that you've already done, you've already accomplished. Because what expectations keep doing is forcing us to think about what we have not yet done. And we live in this mind of scarcity and just not, I still haven't done it. Okay, fine, great. Like, what have you done? Because you've done stuff. And you've probably done a lot more than you realize. And what's interesting is because you live your own life, you don't recognize the things that you've done as being special the way somebody else might. So sit down and write down 100 things I've already done. And you could put down, like, learn to walk. That's huge. Not everybody gets to do that. If you wrote one story this year, you could say, I wrote a story. In fact, maybe an easier exercise to start with is, what have I already done this year? especially because we're getting into the end of the first quarter of the year. If you're separating the year into quarters and you're saying, what do I want to accomplish in 2020? This is a really, really good time to take assessment of all the things you've accomplished. And again, keep those expectations guarded. You don't want to go into this list and think, oh my gosh, I really thought I would have had X, Y, and Z done by now. Okay. It's only the first quarter. You have plenty of time. But at least right now, we need to have a little party for ourselves of all of the things that you did accomplish in your writing this year so far. Even if it's one thing. Right now, just thinking really quickly about my writing, I have written at least 10 stories. I know it's probably a little bit more than that, but I know that I've written at least 10 stories, short stories. I don't know any other year where I can say that I've done that. And it's all because I started that whole Swap 52 club, and we all challenge ourselves to do 52 stories in 52 weeks. And I've told you, I've done that before. And I don't know how far I got with it. And there were times this year even where I was like, oh, I got to write another story this week. But I was thinking, oh, I got this community around me and we're all doing it. I can't not do it if other people are going to do it. So, yeah. Just hearkening back to the whole stop writing alone and why that's important. When we have others around us, we sometimes rise to their expectations because ours are so crappy. Anyway, I think it's a really great activity to stop and take note of what you've done so far and give yourself a little bit of credit, particularly if you're struggling with any kind of moving forward, whether it's in writing and it's writer's block, or whether you have a podcast and you don't know what to say next, or anything, any point in your life where you can't move forward, stop and appreciate everything that you've done to get there and gauge those expectations about what you think you need to be doing. And as I said earlier, part of what really affected me was taking too much in this morning. So sometimes a little unplug is helpful, which brings us back to one of the things that I did want to talk to you about this week, and that is the last Saturday in March. Every single year since 2007 has celebrated something called Earth Hour. And this comes to mind for me right now, one, because I try to participate every single year, but two, because the day that this episode is going live, Thursday, March 12th, is actually a kind of anniversary for me that I didn't even realize. So March 12th, 2011 was the first time I wrote and published a blog post. And I think it's still out there. I think you can get back to the beginning of the blog. The blog is still there. So my first blog, I think I've talked to you guys about it before. It's Searching for Sustenance. And there's a couple out there that has a cool new blog, Searching for Sustenance. But mine is like the ancient looking one. It's searchingforsustenance.blogspot.com. And it's adorable. And, you can tell that it was made a while ago. But it was a blog all about food and health, because I was very sick at the time and I was really struggling with what the heck was going on in my body. And so I started to examine what I was putting in my body. And anytime you start to examine food and that whole industry, you can't help but enter into conversations about the environment and climate change and things like that. And that is how I discovered Earth Hour. And it began as an event where on the last Saturday of March, people around the world were asked to shut the lights in their house for 1 solid hour. And I love to do it because it is really, something. You give your house and the earth a little break from your energy sucking for an hour, but it's also quite interesting what happens to you when you do that for a moment. And what I discovered, and this is part of why I wanted to talk to you guys about it, is that every single year when this comes around, there are really only 3 things that I want to do during that hour. And I pick one each year, and one is to go for a walk. I would love to get outside. But the other 2 is either to read by candlelight or to write by candlelight. And I'm like, wait, I want to tell Stop Writing Alone about this. So I just wanted to let you know about Earth Hour, and their website is earthhour.org. There's lots of different events going on in different cities all throughout March in celebration of this. But as a community, I think it would be really cool if we take that hour. If you are interested, it's at 8:30 p.m. your time, wherever you are, on the 28th. I think it would be cool to stop and write. And on the website of Earth Hour, they do ask for stories because they are trying to get the word out about the importance of nature to everyone. And for that, they need people's stories. So there's a section on the site, and I'll put a link in the show notes, asking for people's stories, either about how they are working to help nature or just about their relationship with nature and how nature affects them. So I wanted to put that out there for you, give you a couple of weeks heads up that on March 28th, which is a Saturday at 8:30 p.m., turning the lights off for 1 hour is a cool little nod to what's going on globally. But I also wanted to share the links with you. This way, if you wanted to read about it or sign any of the petitions, because there are a lot of things going on right now in the climate conversation, and Earth Hour has a place where you can sign the petition and get involved. And I figured, hey, let me tell the writers to write something about nature. So I'm putting that out there. That's what I'll be doing. I'll be writing my story and then sharing it there. And hopefully I won't have any really high expectations of myself that day. But until then, I'd like to say thank you for listening to all my rambles, hanging in with me, and coming back every single week. I truly appreciate it, and I will talk to you again very soon. Just a couple of reminders before we go for this week. One is last week I announced the Stop Writing Alone Happy Campers Club. And if you've been on Instagram or in the Facebook group, I've been trying to introduce it everywhere so everybody gets to know what it is, because tomorrow, March 13th, is the end of the early bird pricing. So for 1 month of me in your face, Monday through Friday, getting you to write, giving you support, connecting with community, doing things like goal setting, write-ins, having a virtual support group, giving you editing and revision tips, and of course writing prompts and looks to our future in our writing career. All of these things every single week in the month of April up until March 13th will be $24.99 just for the whole month, and then you will have lifetime access to that group and the resources from that point forward. After the 13th, it'll go back up to its regular price, which is $49.99 for the month. Again, still a great price for everything that you're going to get. I didn't really put a cap on like the number of people that can join, so we have people already joined up, and you're still welcome. It's not. I haven't limited the slot for that one. However, on that note of limited space, the Ever After Writing Retreat does have a limited number of spots left. That is the writing retreat hosted by Sam, Kimberly, and myself from May 13th through the 15th in Deep Creek Lake, Maryland. Now, the links to all this stuff are in the show notes, and you can head back to the previous episode where Sam and I did an in-depth explanation of what's going on. But also, if you want to tune into the YouTube channel, which all of the links can be found in stopwritingalone.com, Sam and I are going to be doing a video describing our plans for the Ever After Writing Retreat this week. So Friday will be your new writing prompt video, and you can also expect a video from Sam and I for that writing retreat. And again, the links for the information are in the show notes. But my final reminder, I kind of already said, is that tomorrow is Friday, and so you will be getting writing prompt number 11 for your 52 stories in 52 weeks. And it's been really, really fun. I encourage you to hop on over to Stop Writing Alone. The last write-in we did, which was last week, March 6th, Jackie Dana was one of the people that showed up. We had a whole bunch of people show up for the write-in. It was really great. But she was doing last week's prompt of the Dr. Seuss. What did we have to do? We had to do a rhyming story, but with the 8 syllables, one line, 9 syllables, next line, and so on and so forth. She finished the whole thing in an hour. But what I love is that she also gave us like a little description of how she did it. So really cool stuff. And she's a really great writer to connect with. If you haven't connected with Jackie yet on Facebook, she's pretty active over there, and I feel very lucky to have her. So I will also drop a link to her Medium profile in the Stop Writing Alone show notes, in the show notes for this episode. This way you can check out all the writing that she's been doing for the 52 stories and beyond, because she is writing, and I love it. So I believe that's it for this week. I'm going to let you go, and I can't wait to talk to you again very soon. Thank you again for listening. One last thing. I can't even believe I almost forgot this. This has been like one of the most exciting things I discovered this week. You can listen to Stop Writing Alone on your Alexa device. If you have any Alexa devices, all you have to say is, Alexa, play the podcast Stop Writing Alone, and it comes up. It's all brand new. We weren't there before. I think we either had to have a certain number of episodes or a certain level of stats. I don't know what it was. I have been looking and trying to get the podcast to play forever, and it finally came up this week. So have fun with that. I love catching up with my podcast on my Echo show, and it's a game changer for me. So that's it. For real. I'm out. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next week. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page, or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter, where I'm at NV_Rivera, to find links to our email newsletter.